Okay, I have a question. Who has been here before who knows what I'm going to say right now? Vicki, I know you probably know. I think some of you know what I'm going to say. Darn it. I hate to stop the conversation because you guys are doing an amazing job getting to know each other. But we also have two amazing speakers, and I don't want to shorten up our time. And actually, I let too much time go by because I just love that buzz and that beautiful sound of good conversation happening. The fall 2024 is, like I said earlier, the end of our 9th season as Pay It Forward. And although we typically focus on the entrepreneurial mindset throughout all of our sessions, we'll do the same today. But the next 3 sessions are really about transformation. You know, I don't think there's anybody in this room who can say that change doesn't happen. Change always happens, and change will always happen. But transformation is by choice. And the 3 sessions we have for you this fall will talk about a transformation of a family business. It will talk about the transformative nature of a mentor-mentoring relationship. And it will talk about the transformation of a career trajectory. So that's really our theme for the next 3 sessions. I hope that you can come to some or all. You're welcome, and please pass the word, all are welcome. I was really excited when Blake and Ferol said yes to me. I'm looking right at Ferol, I'm sure. Oh, there you are. I'm going, where did she go? I can see Blake. You know, it was really interesting, and I explained it today to Ferol and Blake when they first got here. I've known Ferol personally for a lot of years, but it wasn't until recently that I understood and knew about fast-track metal fabrication or what Blake and Ferol were doing together to grow the business. For those of you who know my professional background, it's not surprising that my antenna went up and I said, family run, manufacturing. Those two are my passion. And I had the privilege of working with a family business for over 25 years. And in the manufacturing sector. And so I know the value that their company provides and partners with throughout the Central Valley. The other thing that I think is interesting is that, in my opinion only, and maybe all of you have a different opinion about this, family businesses either really work or they really don't. And there's not a whole slew going on in the middle. And when it does work, it's quite incredible, but it takes a significant effort because it's not easy. You have to have family members willing to come together, to collaborate, to put the betterment of the whole organization in front of yourself, and to try to figure out how to work really well together. I was fortunate, it really worked. And I do believe that our speakers today are making it work as well, too. I'm really honored to have both Blake and Ferol here today to share their transformational story about what they're doing in their family business to poise themselves for future success. So please join me in welcoming our speakers today. There we go. Got it?
We want to thank Mendy for a really nice introduction. I have known Mendy for a long time and was frankly surprised when she asked me, because I thought, what do I have to offer your students? But everyone has a story. And so I think it's always interesting to learn someone else's story. And today, Blake and I are going to share ours with you. Like she touched on, we own a family business here in Fresno. And there have been ups and downs in that ownership. And we're going to go through the different phases as Blake and I recall what's happened along the timeline. So I will start with myself, just tell you a little bit about me. I was born and raised here in Fresno, and after high school, I went to school at the University of San Francisco. Like a lot of you entering college, you might not know what you want to do with your life. I knew I liked math. My parents said, pick a major that will give you a job when you graduate. So I went the accounting route. And during my junior year in college, I was asked to intern at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is one of the big four accounting firms. So I spent my junior summer doing that and had a great experience. And then senior year, the fall, I was actually offered a full-time position post-graduation. So my whole senior year, I was very secure with a job coming out, and it was just a really good feeling. So I ended up working in public accounting for 2 years. I was on the audit side of that, and I was exposed to corporate America in all aspects. I did realize that that was something I did not want to do as a career. It was a lot of long hours, and I saw the people around me that were working a lot of overtime, and I knew that wasn't something I wanted to do. So I moved back home, got married during this time, and started working at a family business that my dad was at with his brother and that his grandfather had started called Central Cal Metals. So I worked there until that really just didn't work out anymore for me either. And I took a little hiatus and had another job in between at a marketing company here in town. And then we started up brainstorming Fast Trak Fabrication and until now. My name's Ferol Garcia, and like Blake, I grew up here in Fresno my first 18 years, and then I left for Malibu and went to Pepperdine University. I also got the same advice about majoring in something that I could get a job immediately afterwards, so I was also an accountant. Right after college, I moved to San Francisco a couple weeks after and started working at a boutique accounting firm there. We did forensic accounting, preparing insurance claims for property damage and business interruption. It was really interesting. I got my CPA, but then promptly decided I also wanted to do something different. So I, too, joined our previous family company, which was based here in Fresno. I, fortunately, got to stay in San Francisco and worked remote. I pulled that off for about 7 years. And in between that time, I dabbled in yoga. I thought I wanted to open a studio and got my certification, but that was just on the side. And in 2008, 2009, we started Fast Trak. So Fast Trak Fabrication, you might not be familiar with what metal fabrication is. We provide laser cutting services on a contract basis. We don't make our own product. We make other people's products. And we specialize in laser cutting, which is literally a laser that cuts through metal up to 1 inch thick. Our parts go in a lot of different industries. I've seen them at, Starbucks, Apple, Google, Disney. We are not usually the direct contractor for those jobs, but we're the subcontractor. And we're categorized as a small business. We're here in Fresno, and we have 52,000 square feet of manufacturing space. So Ferol and I feel very passionate about being involved in the community. So we both give our time, serve on some guilds, and also support some local things here in Fresno, just such as the Fresno Chaffee Zoo, San Joaquin Valley Manufacturing Alliance, Catholic Charities, Valley Children's, and the Fresno Chamber of Commerce. So our presentation today, this is kind of how we're going to break down the transformation. Phase 1 is basically just our new business, a family investment. Phase 2 is the breakdown when differences kind of arose. And phase 3 is the transformation of recreating the partnership. And phase 4, we're still waiting for that to happen. So fact, 99.9% of businesses in the US are small businesses. Does anyone have any idea what the maximum number of employees you can have to be a small business? Thank you, Janelle, who's CEO of the San Joaquin Valley Manufacturing Alliance. Yes, it's 500. So to me, that doesn't seem very small, but that is what the SBA categorizes as. Fact, 79% of small businesses employ under 10 people. So effectively, about 80% of American businesses are employing 10 and under people. That's a lot. fact, 27% of small businesses are family-owned. So you likely know someone or a couple people who are part of a family business. It doesn't have to be business to business like we are, but it could be a farm. It could be a retail store or a restaurant.
So going into phase one, I would say these are all things that we felt during that phase. The first being naive. It felt like we were in business class 101 when we decided to start our own company. We had the support of my parents. We basically went through a checklist. We were looking up logos. We were looking at the colors. We were being able to design the layout of our company and the building to exactly what we wanted. We were researching software. We got to buy new office furniture. It was all these things that were super fun, and it felt like if I was in a business class, here's the checklist of things you need to do, and we were just going through them. We had a business plan. We did a mission statement. But the idea of the business was not something new to us. It wasn't something that we were coming up with. We were leaving a family business and basically just copying that same family business and starting over. So the plan itself was kind of handed to us, but we got to do all the fun things that came along with it, and we were excited.
It was also a really purposeful time. When you have a family business and their family is investing its money in the company, there's a lot riding on that, and it supported our whole family at that time. So there was a lot of high stakes involved. And it also felt really purposeful because we were coming from a situation that we weren't very happy in, and I feel like we were creating our own happiness in this new company. Again, my parents put a lot of money into the company, and so I think Blake, Paul, and I took it to heart and really wanted to make this work.
I just want to say the exciting part was that we were setting our own roles and responsibilities at this point. We had left a family business and we got to start over from scratch. We got to decide how we wanted to run it. We got to decide what was important to us. And we were going to be our own boss. It was just, we were young. We had the support, and it just we were just very blessed to be in that position.
It also naturally united us. We worked together, like Blake said, on all aspects because we were building it from the ground up. So you are location scouting. We were fortunate enough to have my parents who were able to procure land and build a building. Like that was a huge head start for a new business. But we were just working together on every part of the business. And I have really fond memories of that time. It was really fun. And it was also challenging, though, because, the finances. We had enough cash to go a whole year with no sales. So it sounds like we had a lot of money in the bank, but we were cash strapped. We did not take a salary the first 2 years. So age 30, I got to move back in with my parents. I was single, slightly depressed about that. And it was a wild ride, but we were willing to put it all out there to make this work, and you have to make some kind of sacrifices. Even if we felt very confident that this was going to work, there's that startup period. And another challenge was we opened our doors in 2008, 2009. That was the Great Recession. Like right before all the banks started to fail, that's when we decided to open. So people were holding on to their cash. It was really unstable. But the silver lining is we got to start fresh. So while some people had higher pricing, we went super low in there because we weren't stuck in anything. We were just right on top, had our finger on the pulse of the market. Okay, we're going to move now into phase two, the breakdown.
So here's some facts about family business, which you may know about. I would say that we were actually kind of the second generation of Fast Trak Fabrication, having my dad with us. It wasn't like Ferol and I and my brother started it from the beginning. We had another generation above us. So we're kind of the second generation. But 30% of family-owned businesses in the U.S. survive into the second generation. So we're there. Mm-hmm. But 13% survive into the third generation, and only 3% survive into the fourth and beyond. So they refer to this often as the 30-13-3 statistic.
So a lot of the breakdown was contributed to poor communication. So we have a couple quotes up here. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And I think you can all relate to that. You are saying something as clearly as you think possible, and the person hears it totally different. Can't help that sometimes. The most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. This is, instead of just the words you're listening for the nonverbal cues, we speak with our facial expressions and our bodies. And so when you're listening and communicating with someone, you're wrapping all that into one thing to understand.
Okay, so at the start of phase 2, we were in our, late 20s, early 30s, and we had some huge milestones that all three of us individually were going through. We had an engagement during that time. We had a wedding was also during that time between us, and there was children that were all being born. So individually, we were all on very different pages at this time in our personal lives. And we were just trying to figure out who we were and what our families were looking like, and that was kind of a lot of our personal focus. It was clear at this time that we didn't have a great foundation for communication to tie between our personal lives and the business. It was all very blurry. But like Ferol said, you just kind of assumed some stuff, but it was never really clearly communicated how it would affect the actual business. And we were operating as individuals. So I mentioned that we were all able to create our own roles and responsibilities. I would say we were basically operating like little islands at work. We all had our offices, and there was bridges that had been built, but we weren't crossing over very often. Maybe 2 people would get together and talk about stuff, and then another 2 people would get together. But as a whole, all of us in the office were not doing a very good job of collaborating at this time together. And so we still basically really stayed in our lanes. I stayed in the finance part, my sister stayed in her sales, and my brother was focused on operations, and my dad focused on estimating and maintenance of the company. So we just kind of didn't overlap at all much during that time.
But what happened when there wasn't a flow of communication is that the company became stagnant. We were essentially a lifestyle company, and I would describe that as the company supported our lifestyle. We had a great work life. It wasn't that stressful. The hours weren't crazy. We were all making enough money to support ourselves, and so everything was great except when it wasn't, and someone wanted some change. If you're the only owner of a company and that's how you choose to be, that's totally fine. But when there's 3 of you and you start to want different things, that's when there starts to be a breakdown. And our sales reflected that. We had flatline sales for several years, and that obviously is a problem when you have a company. You should always be trying to grow it. There just wasn't a lot of desire to grow or change between us. And that led to some frustration. You think you're doing what you want to do, and the other people should be doing also what you want to do, but you're not even talking about it that well. And then there becomes frustration, some anger, some resentment, and then doubt of like, well, are they even doing their job correctly? Who's doing what? It just kind of had a little downward spiral that I would say was a very low point for our communication. Luckily, things go up. They don't always have a low point. So we started phase 3, which is the transformation. And fact, as of 2021, 15% of small businesses had been operational for 25 years or more. We just celebrated our 15-year anniversary in January, and so we're more than halfway there, and I'm pretty confident we'll be around. Fact, family businesses tend to outperform non-family owned. There's a sense of stewardship with family businesses that corporations don't have, and I would say most family businesses are in it for the long haul. You're thinking about the next generation, so there's a lot of incentives there to be mindful. Fact, family businesses focus on long-term results, conservative growth, and resilience. You're doing it for your kids a lot of the time. Money is very important to have, versus a big corporation where you might aim for rapid growth and short-term quarterly goals. That's not usually the mentality of a family business.
Okay, so we're entering phase 3. Like Ferol mentioned, at the end of phase 2 was a very low point for our personal relationship, and the business was pretty much just flatlined. So at this point, our brother had decided to leave the family business, and we ended up bringing in my husband, Eric, so it's still staying in the family, to come help fill that void. And it was a really exciting time. I was excited about it. We all kind of just felt like we had this new outlook on the business, and we wanted to succeed again. We were happy to move forward and kind of get out of that phase and focus on the future. We had a new drive for the success of it. And one of the big things that we all agreed on really was we wanted to retain the employees that we had. We had a really good workforce at this time, and we felt it was really important to us to include them in a lot more of our decision making of the daily tasks that we're doing at Fast Trak. We wanted to bring the outside operations inside with us and kind of just blend those lines a little bit and have them be a part of the daily decisions that went on and see the bigger picture, to have a little bit more investment of what we were doing there. So accountability. We didn't have a whole lot of accountability before, and we still didn't have a whole lot of accountability amongst us. So we actually decided, we put our egos aside, we said we need some help in this department, and we hired an outside consultant who's here today, and we dissected every role in our company. We went through every single position that was there and made lists and charts of who was responsible for what. And so it was very clear to all of us of who should be doing what, and it took away a lot of the doubt or just I know these reports are being made, I've never actually seen them. And we started to review things a lot more consistently. We had already been doing some morning meetings with the production team, but it was kind of just to talk about things that a fire that needed to be put out or something that needed to be rushed. And now we kind of changed the focus of those. We included key performance indicator meetings once a week to look at those things in real time. And it put us all on the same page of things that needed improving, things that were lacking, but things that we were doing really well at also. We also focused on, we eat lunch together a lot. So we focused on having really dedicated one day a week to a strategy meeting during that lunch period to focus on the personnel issues, think about the future, talk about equipment, purchases, and those kind of things, and just really made it like the meeting was a purpose. Everyone at this time was doing a lot of metrics on their own, like I said, and this accountability gave us all just a sense of seeing those metrics and being able to share them. Also, in terms of our employees, I mentioned we wanted to focus on them a little bit more, and we put in some formal reviews in place. We didn't really have that before. We wanted them to feel that there was a career pathway for them here at Fast Trak. If they wanted to stay, we were happy to accommodate and find a way for them to improve and learn new things and make it a career for themselves.
We also had a lot of help with creating boundaries and structure. It kind of sounds like it goes without saying, but when you're in it, it's difficult to figure these things out. So the structure was a really welcome change for me. I liked seeing who's doing what, how are they connected, where is it flowing, like mapping that all out is very helpful and clarifies it for the whole team. We assigned roles for the first time. We never had positions before. I was just partner in sales. Now I'm the CEO and Blake is CFO, and I think that provides clarity for our team. It provides clarity for our customers. You like to know who you're talking with and who you're dealing with a lot of the times for the right decision. We also created SOPs, standard operating procedures. Again, this feels like Business 101, but we didn't have that. What this helps with is the consistency of the business. So if we unfortunately lose an employee and someone's stepping into that role, there you go. It's all written down. We know the person we're hiring better. We know the qualities we're looking for to fill that role. And honestly, we're flowing still. I feel like we're not static at all. It's like sometimes you're going to share this role and maybe in 6 months we'll change it again and it will be this thing. because as you grow, you change. But yeah, and I feel like it mostly enabled me to operate with a little more freedom. You're not worried about what's getting done by who. And then with it is boundaries. Blake can attest, this one was hard for me. I, as an owner, like to have my finger in everything and know what is going on, and I like to learn by doing. So if you told me you were doing some kind of report, I might do it on my own and just see how that came out also. That is not productive. Also doing a lot of things directly, like answering customer status questions or shipping estimates, it's like, that's not a good use of my time. I have someone who has that specific role, and now they help with it. And I find that it's helping me see the forest through the trees, where I am seeing the big picture of what this company is going to be and how to get there. So both of those things are very helpful to help you be more productive and efficient. We also have, I feel like we moved more into a technology focus, and this is also just market conditions. Like 5 years ago, Industry 4.0 was the big thing. It's like digitizing your files, connectivity between the shop and the office, using robots. I mean, it's really had a shift in the last 5 years, which is super exciting. You'll see a lot of robots in ag now, which was never the case. So we've invested in software to help our operations inside. It gives us, like Blake said, the metrics, which help you do better once you have those numbers on utilization of machinery, labor hours. How good are our quotes? Are they are we in the red, or are they making profit? All of that can be done by software. And I think we had to wrap our head around also that you have to pay for software. So, you used to just get Adobe for free or whatever programs you're using. It's like, well, now you have a subscription. Now that's a full-on line item in our expenses. Like, you pay for what you get, though. It makes you more efficient, and it's worth it. And I do like, lastly, I just like our customers to feel like we're sophisticated, we know what's going on, we're down with what's the latest thing out there. So I think it's a win-win all around. But lastly, this is a small one, women in leadership. It is unique in manufacturing. I don't like to tout Blake and I as woman-owned. I would rather somebody worked with us because we're good at what we do. We have incredible service. We're on-time deliveries. But it is unique, and I appreciate it. And it's so lovely to see more and more women in manufacturing. It's making a big change, I think. And I think as owners, we do put a different spin on our viewpoint of how we do things, which is needed. So that's our old logo, which we did not know was like fast signs, but at the time, but it is. So that was our old logo, Fast Trak Fabrication. And I used to advertise this as family owned and operated. I was really proud of that. And I'd say a job shop, and just semantics, but changing it to a contract manufacturer specializing in laser cutting. Succinct, tells them what we do. We changed our logo to reflect that with metal in the name. We would get calls for non-metal things, and I wanted it to be very clear for people to know. We changed our domain name as a result, too. Like I mentioned before, lifestyle business. I feel like now I could be working at a third-party, non-family-owned company in the fact that it feels really dynamic, and we are ready to go, and we are working hard every day to be ready for the next opportunity.
A big change too, like I said, I've touched on this. We really had independent roles, and now we have a lot of accountability to our team. And I think that goes on all levels from the top down. Everyone kind of knows what they're responsible for, and everything runs really smoothly because of it. Also, we used to have very few meetings, and now that we have these daily, weekly, and monthly meetings, the communication is clear. Everyone is aware of what's going on, and it's just making the business itself more successful. We also used to have very little industry involvement, and we have recently taken in more of a interest in some of these local stuff. SJVMA, we're trying to attend more shows, go to more speakers and listen, and just introduce ourselves to the community, because I think it's really important, especially too for hiring you guys, that we want to have a connection to the students in the community and other local businesses.
And before we operated off of tribal knowledge, we didn't really have anything written down. It was a verbal passing along of how to do something. That's great until that person's gone. So now, like we mentioned before, we have documented processes and SOPs so that if anyone is gone or something happens, God forbid, we will be ready to assume that role. And process of out in the shop. And we also had the lack of accountability. We just weren't reporting to, no one was reporting to anyone. Like, that autonomy is really great, but it didn't push the company forward. So now we talk to each other weekly on shipped sales, WIP, work in process, how many new customers did we get, how many new quotes. It's like shared with everybody, and it's really helpful.
And then just having the undefined leadership or expectation, and now having some formal titles. Like Ferol mentioned, everyone knows who to go to for what. And everyone knows what they're responsible for. And that has been the roles, actually, which I didn't think would be such a big deal, have made everyone's lives, I feel like, a lot easier. And bootstrap expenses. We operated, I would say, frugally at the beginning. It got us to be very successful. It's not a bad thing, especially when you're starting out. But now that we've been in business 15 years, we have decided that there are some things that we're willing to spend money on, especially if it's going to improve the efficiency and make our jobs easier, and it just the functionality of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to leave you with the 3 C's. Communication, super important personally and with your colleagues. Continuous learning, professionally and personally. You should always be learning something new. They definitely overlap and carry over. And culture. I want more than anything for our employees to come in happy to come in there, proud they work there, and just interested. Work should be fulfilling, and that's our goal at Fast Track Metal Fabrication. There's a quote at the bottom. It's, if everyone is moving forward together, then success will take care of itself. And I feel like we are really trying hard to move forward together into phase 4, whatever that would be.
And here you can just see this is the outside at the very beginning when this building was built 15 years ago. We're on Dakota and Marks. We're on the corner, and recently added another building right on the flip side of that. That's a copy of it. So we take up that whole corner over there. You can't miss us.
We would love for you to follow us on Instagram. And if you get that email, you can email me directly from that email. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them related to fabrication or resources or anything like that. Thanks, Mendy.
Yeah. Thank you.
We definitely are not going to let you get away without any questions. And I know we have several in the audience. So we do have an extra mic, and I'm going to, it's coming right this way, because I think in the past we've had some difficulty hearing the question. So we'll start with Rudy. Would you have a question? And here comes the mic for you.
I don't think I need the mic.
Oh, Rudy, use the mic so that people behind you can hear.
2 questions. Number of employees currently, and number 2, who holds you accountable? Do you have a board of directors? Do you have outside directors on it who are not related to you or to anybody working at the company?
No, we do not have a board of directors at this time. It's just, we have an executive board. It's my brother-in-law, Eric, who's the COO, Blake, CFO, and me. We follow these metrics that we set ahead of time for ourselves, which could be reporting, it's sales, and operational goals. And we will meet regularly to talk. And it's a red box when we're not doing very well on the chart. So we all are aware when something's behind or not performing as well. But it's just the 3 of us. We are a smaller operation, 10 currently.
We currently have 10 employees.
Yeah.
Yes. And we always kind of hover around that number. We've had, 8 to 10, but that's usually about where we stand.
Thanks, Rudy. Is there another question, Zeph?
Oh, yeah. You said you were coming at us. He said he had some.
He said that?
Yeah, he told me he had some questions. Let's see.
How did you balance your work and personal life, especially when working with a family member?
So how do you balance work and a personal life, especially when working with a family member? So they do not teach you in school how to manage a work relationship that is also a family relationship. It's messy. It just is. We used to, I'm sure we fought and did things, and that kind of carries over sometimes. And you might talk that way at work. But we have realized we want it to be as professional as possible at work. And so we are trying to operate as a non-family business, essentially, to keep civil conversations. I feel like we communicate without yelling, which is great. But it can get messy, and there used to be tears, and it used to be emotional a lot, and that is not productive for work. It really was blurry. And so I think when you take some of the emotion out of it and just focus on the task at hand, it's become a lot clearer and easier.
So I would just comment that I don't have a lot of separation between business and personal, since I do work with my husband also every day. But I do find that actually working with him, while we're at work, we talk about work. And then when we go home, we talk about our kids and our home. We don't really talk about work at home, which has been nice. I think my brain just shuts off and I go into mom mode when I leave there. But having him actually come on board with us, having a lot of outside experience that Ferol and I didn't have outside of family business, made us see maybe the dysfunctionality a little bit of how we were operating and how we would treat each other at work as siblings instead of coworkers. And so we kind of were missing that level of respect, I would say, amongst each other. And some of the childhood stuff that we had gone through carried into our work. And we've really tried to keep those two things separate.
Other questions? Yes.
Hi, you ended your speaking with referencing Instagram and to follow you on Instagram. How relevant is social media for your business? Is it something just superficial, or is it actually a relevant, integral part of the growth of your business?
I look at it currently as a necessary evil because I've had to do it myself. But we have one of our employees who's younger and more savvy, and he's been really helpful making it cool. But I don't think we get new business from it necessarily. We are middle-aged, and there's a lot of our colleagues and customers who don't follow us. But the younger people who we might be hiring, I think it's attractive, and I like watching manufacturing videos, like the welding. It's cool. Like when they're edited right, like they are fun to watch, and how things are made never gets old. So that's what we're trying to show through our social media is like this, you can relate to this because this is going to Driscoll strawberries, the ones you buy at the market, that's going to their harvesting facility. So like it's everywhere around you, manufacturing, and that's what I think we can share that, if that helps, yeah.
Yes. Oh. Okay, I'm sorry.
What kind of strategies?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. What kind of strategies did your company use early on, especially during the recession for 08 and 09, especially for a startup company that was coming up at the time?
Bootstrapping everything. There wasn't, even though, as I mentioned, we were pretty confident it would work, it was not guaranteed by any means. But I think we didn't overspend. I think we really went in with competitive pricing that later on we would cushion more. But we wanted to get new work in the door, and the way you do it initially is through pricing. So I feel like we were lucky because we didn't have inventory that was super expensive that we had brought prior. So I feel like we were just very current in that way and very open to what do you want? How can I get your order? And that's how I feel like I started with that.
And I would also say, we mentioned we came from another family business. And so we had connections to a customer base existed already when we started. And so I think we targeted those people that we had really good relationships with to help us get going with the new company. And they were loyal to us. They were loyal to my dad. And they followed him over to the new company, which we were really lucky about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we answered this one. Let's go back here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for the amazing presentation. I enjoyed it so much. So it sounds that innovation and technology have been playing a big role in your company, given the fact that your employment basis is pretty small, only 10 full-time employees. And so how do you differentiate yourselves against your competitors with regard to your innovation or continuous investment in innovation and R&D? That's one. So innovation and competition combined together. And the second question, growth prospects. Are you planning to grow, to increase the number of your employees, the revenues? And if so, what kind of markets are you envisioning to enter into? Thanks.
Yeah, so some of you are aware that manufacturing is currently in a dip. So it's one of those fun times, again, where things out of your hands go down, and again, they can only go back up. So for growth, we're looking internally. We just had a talk this week about collections and different things we can do without buying something new, but we are also buying something new. We are looking at a new piece of equipment that will broaden the market for us of customer base. That's one way we're growing. Do you have any?
No, I would just say we are always focused on getting bigger. We would like to and get into different markets. It's just finding a need for those markets. When we're dealing with our current customers, they might ask us, we might get a handful that ask us to do, if we can do this, and we can't currently, but now we're thinking, let's do it. Why not? So we are always talking, but those are part of our meetings every week, is like, how can we grow? What can we do? And how can we differentiate ourselves from our competition?
But to answer that question also is, one of the themes we've embraced is to be your one manufacturing resource. I want to be your complete resource. So if you need something water jet cut, I don't have those, but I'm going to find it for you, and I'll get a quote for you, and I want you to send me one PO. I'm going to do the whole thing for you. I have my machining contacts, my tube bending. I will make your life easier. That's one of the strategies currently. But the other one I think is really important between leadership is just staying curious also. How are you doing that? Where are you getting that done? What else do you need? Just asking questions a lot and letting them tell me what they want. Mm-hmm.
Hello, I wanted to ask, what motivated you guys when things got challenging?
Which time?
Oh, well, I know there was multiple times that things got challenging, but I just wanted to know what kept you going from not giving up on your company.
I mean, for Blake, we agree on one thing for sure, is we're in a really awesome setup where we have autonomy and flexibility. And as a mom, that's really hard to find when it pays well. So it's a great setup. We have a wonderful thing going with the company itself. And the challenging part has often been relational. So we have gone to therapy together. We will talk a lot during the day and week. And I think, again, the communication is imperative for challenges.
I would say that, what you have to remember in a family business is that family does come first. The business will either make it or not, but your family is who you have. And so during those challenges, I really had to dig deep to make some of those choices, because it was really challenging working with my brother, my sister, my dad every day. I would just keep that in mind if you enter a family business, that the focus should always be on your family.
Yes. And then I have a question. What's something that your company do to give back to the community? Do you guys do any like volunteer work, or what's something that you guys do for the community?
So one thing, Blake and I and Eric, we get involved with different organizations that we're drawn to, and that means something to us. So currently, the zoo is one of them, which there's some lovely people here from the zoo. The Chaffee Zoo is amazing. They just had 2 baby elephants. But we serve on the Safari Night Committee, which is their big fundraiser for the year. I'm on the Public Development Committee with another friend over here to help them raise money. Schools, we're very active in our children's schools, volunteering in the PTC program. But when the community in regards to business, it's really SJVMA. Janelle has helped to create this amazing organization that has resources for companies that also, it's a win-win. They benefit the community. So we're started working with some programs they offer. There's one that's called Career Nexus. It's usually not for your students, I don't think, in this program sometimes. Not usually, so you wouldn't maybe hear of it, but it's a funnel to help students find work in manufacturing. And then you, as the employer, donates money back to them because it's a nonprofit. So there's areas like that that mean a lot for us.
How do you, as a business, stay informed about market trends and industry changes?
Reading all the time, online. There's printed fabrication, the Fabricator is a printed publication that is a great tool, but it's honestly looking at all sorts of news outlets, Business Wire, Gallup. I feel like you can get employee and market information online when you go look for it. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, first of all, congratulations for 15 years in your business.
you.
It's great to see women in these roles.
you.
My question to you is, you talked about, how you had to go into developing the processes and identifying the roles. I work with a lot of small business owners, and that's one thing that they always say, oh, it's in my head, right? And that's how they operate their businesses for a really long time, and we know that it ends up impacting them. How was that process for you? How did you identify, oh, I need to get some help for this? And what was that process like for your business?
Well, I would say that we realized that the communication had kind of broken down, especially when somebody went out of town and we really didn't know how to do the role in its entirety. So working with an outside consultant, we literally went through every single position at every single level within the company and wrote down what their daily tasks were and how to do them. And so it just basically put in one location the way the whole entire business worked. But the process was tedious. It took a lot of moving some things around. Like, does this make the most sense for this person to be doing this? Probably not. Like, maybe that person should be doing this. And even creating new positions that we realized, oh, we don't have anyone who does this. We thought this was being done. So stuff like that. But yeah, we just really took a really intricate look at everybody in the business and what they were doing.
Why we did it, though, is we felt stuck. When you're your own boss, there's no one there to push you or guide you or to light that fire under your butt. And so you have to stay self-disciplined and motivated on your own, which is really challenging. And I think between the three of us, who I would say are intelligent people and we're excited about the work, but there was no guide. And we just felt like we needed some outside input to get us going, get fresh ideas. Because when Blake talks about the structure of it, it sounds kind of obvious, but when you're in it and there's no defined leader to guide you through it, it's really difficult. So I feel like that was the general feeling, and we also could tell our communication was starting to take a dip again, and we're like, not again. No, we don't want to do this again. We need someone else to come in. So, yeah.
How was it having a career like before getting married and having a family and then maintaining it after getting married and having a family?
Yeah, so I got married, I think what's considered pretty young now, at 23. I was just out of college and I was working full time. And I had 3 kids very young. And so I started off working part-time when I left the corporate world, which was part of the attraction to coming home and working for the family business, was that I was able to work part-time and balance those two things between being my home life and my kids. I don't think I would have been able to do it, and honestly, in any other job besides being my own boss.
I would say it's learned, because you can't do it all. Like, you want to be a full-time mom and you want to be a full-time employee, but we started out part-time and there's too much to do during the day. So you'd feel behind when you'd come back in, but you'd have this full load of stuff at home to do. It's exhausting. And so I slowly would add another day, and then it's like, okay, there's kind of enough time to do everything. It's really hard. And I think we had the luxury of that flexibility to kind of figure it out, but a lot of people don't. And just know as a woman, I feel like you're always going to have 2 jobs. You're always going to be a full-time mom and try to work. It's really difficult, though. Good luck. Have fun.
Okay. With that, are there other questions? Ralph. Okay.
Yes, sir.
We'll start here, and then we're going to end up at the
AI. So I know you guys, on your
I actually,
Aside from that, how else have you guys integrated AI into your company?
I would say slowly. Frankly, I'm not an early adopter of tech, and I realize that about myself, which thankfully my brother-in-law is. But we really don't incorporate that currently with the equipment, as far as I know.
No.
Unless it's running itself right now. I don't even know it. Yeah, no, but it is moving. I would say the focus is more like just on robotics and the machine knowing what to do after it's programmed and can do production, that type of thing, but not currently.
So you guys mentioned in phase 2 that you guys were stagnant, but what made you guys want to grow again?
I got restless. I don't know what it was about my second baby, but I realized, why are sales flatlined? It suddenly hit me that was something I wanted to change. And I think it just started the conversation between the three of us so everyone liked making money. And I was like, the way to make money is to make more sales, and that's the way it goes. And it just needed to happen for everyone to go in that direction.
Yeah, I would say we were all very comfortable in what we were doing. We had kind of just were happy being, flatlined a little bit. Everyone was doing everything they wanted to do outside of work. It wasn't stressful. But like Ferol said, Ferol did have an itch. She decided she wanted to make a change. And it wasn't very easy for everyone to get in line with that.
Any other questions? Yeah. Okay, one more back here. Oh, yes.
It's you.
It's you.
My voice.
Yeah.
How would you say, as far as mentors in your life, do you have any that you think are growing, like as you were going forward with your business? Are they you still keep in touch with them? How do they play a role in your business?
Yeah. That is something I always wanted outside of the family. My dad was my mentor for sure. But as I evolved and got older, I really wanted some outside input on things, which our business consultant, Stephanie, I really like Stephanie. She's my friend now. And I feel like that led me to wanting to meet more professional women in general, and they become a source. So I don't have a particular mentor currently, but I feel like you're always looking for that feedback and that camaraderie and like just someone to validate what you're doing a little bit. And it's friends like Janelle and all my mom friends who work, like all my friends work. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, I would say the same. I mean, I have friends who are also coming from family business, and I love having them as a soundboard. They're bigger family businesses than we are, and they have bigger issues. But really, at the heart of it, they're almost all about the same. They're not that different. So I've definitely used them as a sounding board through the years for that.
Well, I think I can convince them to stay, Ferol and Blake, to stay for a few minutes up on the stage when we're done today in case you do have any more questions for them. Please join me in thanking them. This has been a great session. And before we depart, did all the students get a raffle ticket when they came in today? Have you twirled it around? Have you dropped it on the floor? If not, please try to retain it. Get it back. I'm going to let Ferol pick the winning ticket today. This was just for the students who are with us. Can you read it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
You don't have your glasses. Okay. 058408. Oh, congrats. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we enjoyed it. Before you leave,
Congrats. There you go.
so it actually proves that you should wait to the end. Never leave early if you can. But anyway, I wanted to thank you all for coming. It's been great to have such a good turnout today.